Today we're going to continue looking at the subject, did humans really live to be 900 years old? Well, let's look at some of the differences between the pre-flood and the post-flood conditions. Now we already saw some of the differences according to what scientific evidence has given us. Well, what kind of effect would it have on plants if just the atmospheric pressure was increased and the carbon dioxide was increased as well? A professor applied just these two aspects to a plant and had miraculous results. Professor Kiyomori began his experiment in his basement in Japan. He began raising a cherry tomato plant by putting it under a container where he could increase the atmospheric pressure as well as the carbon dioxide content. He began to see remarkable results which forced him to move the plant out of his basement. The plant was simply becoming too large. He brought it to the university that he worked at. The tomato plant continued to grow and grow and grow. The last picture that I saw of the plant showed a cherry tomato plant that was 3 stories high and had literally thousands of grapefruit-sized tomatoes. Now, a cherry tomato plant normally lives a few months. This one lived for years. And now imagine the immense abundance of plant life in an atmosphere of this kind, which again has been shown scientifically to exist in the past. The entire world would have been completely different than it is today. But the benefits do not end with plant life. Animals, humans, and even insects would have benefited greatly as well. The increased atmospheric pressure combined with additional oxygen can have an incredible effect on non-plant life forms. Now, do you remember Jessica that fell down a Texas well years ago? Well, that does date me somewhat. Her leg had been twisted while she was in the well, waiting to be rescued, and it was in such bad shape, black, that doctors suggested amputation. The hyperbaric chambers were fairly new, and someone suggested that she be placed in one for a while. This chamber increases the atmospheric pressure as well as the oxygen content. She made a complete recovery with the exception of one of her toes, and today these chambers are commonly used to help treat injuries. And yes, they still have similar results today. Now, these two examples apply just a couple of the conditions that were different in the past. But Carl Baugh decided to take this information that he had about the conditions of the earth before the flood and actually make a biosphere with all of the conditions that appeared to be present before the flood. The results were staggering. Piranha grew more than twice their normal size in the biosphere. Fruit flies lived up to 3 generations instead of 1, in other words, 3 times as long. Copperheads were put into the biosphere. The venom was later tested and was determined to be completely non-poisonous. The molecular change in the venom was enough to cause it to have no poisonous effect whatsoever. What was the effect on some of the plants and animals before the flood? Well, let's look at the fossils to find out. Fossils show us that beavers were 10 feet long. Dragonflies had wingspans of 3 feet, and sometimes even more. Creatures were often much larger than they are today. And that's many creatures. I just gave you a couple of them. Some plants, such as the club moss, grew to be over 100 feet tall, and they're less than 2 feet tall today. Almost all dinosaurs were vegetarians. Plants would have been prolific, and dinosaurs would have plenty to eat. And this leads us to another point. And I'm going to take a little side trail here. But what happened to all the dinosaurs? First of all, there's an incredible amount of evidence that humans have lived with dinosaurs. And I gave you some of the information on that at evosecrets.com when you get the free 10-page dinosaur report. But the question is, why have all the dinosaurs died off? The answer, or at least part of the answer, lies within the very subject that we have been discussing. What is the one particular thing about dinosaurs? They all had very small lungs for the size of their body. Now, if this canopy around the Earth was destroyed, then the dinosaurs had a very serious problem. They would have had a very difficult time breathing. Each breath would have brought in less than half of the oxygen compared to what they were used to. And some estimates are that it would have been less than a third. Now, for those that do believe in the creation and the worldwide flood, another thing would have happened as well. Before the flood, the canopy would have caused a semi-tropical climate to be around the entire world. This idea has borne out with evidence of palm trees found deep in the Antarctica, the Arctic, and virtually every continent in the world. This semi-tropical climate would have disappeared in every area of the world except where we basically find it today. The virtual greenhouse that was caused by this canopy around the world was destroyed. And the oxygen concentration and atmospheric pressure is much less than it was in the past. And by the way, a lot less carbon dioxide concentration as well. The virtual greenhouse that was caused by this canopy around the Earth was destroyed, so not only dinosaurs would have found it difficult to breathe, but the former climate was also gone. For those that believe in the flood, then Noah's Ark would have carried the dinosaurs as well as the other animals. But these dinosaurs would have had a tough time trying to survive after the flood. For more information, go to evosecrets.com.